Connor, how you doing, sir?
It's nice to meet you. Finally.
Yeah,
it's a
man,
long time coming.
It's been a while, man. I can't remember exactly when I came across your page, but everything since the day that I did, man, absolutely loving what you put out there. And for a guy that's only 20 years old, I think it's quite interesting to see you so invested in your health from such an early age. But how did that happen? How did you become so interested in at such a young age?
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. So it's a blessing and it was a curse when it first happened. So growing up, like, I struggled with my health, chronic asthma, chronic migraines, and even gut issues. And I just never knew. I just thought it was normal because so many people suffer these days. And it was only when I started to get later into my life that it just came crumbling down. And it got to a point where I was suffering massively with my mental health.
Yeah.
And then I started to find the health and wellness space when I was about 17. And when I dive into that, there's so much misinformation looking back now. But at the time, like, you just go down so many rabbit holes and then you see things and you just believe it blindly.
Yeah.
So starting off, I went vegan and that didn't end great.
No.
But
and how long were you vegan for?
I'd say about 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. And from your own personal perspective now, do you think there's any benefit to doing vegan at all for anyone?
See, I think it ties down to where you live in the world, your genetics and your ancestry.
Okay.
For some people, they'll do a lot better on a plant-based diet and eating mostly plants, but I think animal products always have their place in the diet because if we look at our ancestry and how we evolved to eat animal products. That's what got us here today.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the Neanderthals, they were...
Gone back quite a bit there.
Yeah, they were big-time hunter-gatherers. They survived mostly on animals. They didn't really eat plants, and we didn't evolve to eat plants.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to just be solely, eating, either plant. I like a mix of things, man.
Yeah, we're omnivores at the end of the day.
Why do we have to sit on one side? And man, you know what's so funny? You've got vegans and you've got carnivores, and is there any category that just meets in the middle? Is there anyone that's just called health?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, because we need both. And like you touched on there, man, I think meat is so important. We'll break into nutrition already because I know you're quite versed on the subject, but meat's essential because could you tell me more about even like red meat? I know you're big into eating your organ meat as well. Yeah. Especially as a liver.
Liver, yeah. I like heart as well.
You like heart as well?
Yeah, that's a
How do you even cook that?
You cook it on a pan or an oven, low heat, bit of rosemary, butter or olive oil.
Lovely.
And yeah, it's very nice. People will look at it and go, oh, organ meat. But heart, it tastes very much like steak, like muscle meat.
Does it?
Yeah, so if you want to get into eating organs, the first one I'd recommend would be heart.
And what's the benefit to eating the heart of an animal?
So there is a lot of people who talk about eating heart will benefit your heart, but that's not a well-studied area of science. But if we just look at what is well-studied, organ meat is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet.
It is.
If you compare heart, liver, or any organ meat to any vegetable on the planet, so let's take blueberries, broccoli. They're the ones that people say are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. But if you put their profiles side by side, liver will trump it in every area.
I've seen them, man. We'll pop them up on screen for anyone that doesn't know. I've seen many of them, man. I've seen many of them, especially liver's just the main one. I hear that talked about somewhere, and you can eat it raw as well. Is that right?
You can, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you know the source. Because if you're just going to the supermarket and getting liver, you don't know how long and how fresh that is.
Yeah.
It could be contaminated. So cooking it, but I wouldn't cook it very heavily because you will destroy some of the nutrients. So you want to lightly cook it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to overcook it. But if you can go to the butchers and you can get liver fresh and you know the source, you can eat it raw.
Oh, yeah.
But build your way up to it, because a lot of people, if they jump straight from their standard diet to eating raw liver, their stomach acid isn't going to be able to handle that. You are going to have adverse reactions to that. You could get food poisoning and stuff. Like I eat raw liver. I don't eat it regularly. I cook it most of the time.
Yeah.
But there is benefits to eating it raw because a lot of the compounds, they are intact when you eat it raw. But when you cook it, those compounds are broken down.
Yes.
And it's like anything. Even if you look at eggs, if you cook eggs, a lot of the vitamins and minerals are broken down. So what you want to do is you want to cook the white first and then keep the yolk very lightly cooked or raw, and that's when you maximize the nutrients.
Yeah, I remember, man, I love eggs as well. I remember my granddad always said to me that if the yolk goes hard, you've taken the goodness out of it.
100%.
And it's very true, man. It's very true. But we're going back a small bit, so we're on the meat side of things. But you were vegan. When did you transition over to a more healthier approach from your own point of view?
100%.
When did you transition over from obviously veganism to a more health-based diet or practices?
Yeah, so probably when I first got into the space, there's a lot of misinformation online. There's a lot of people pushing vegan agendas saying it's the best for you and it's the best for the planet. But my health suffered as a consequence. I went vegan for about 8 months in total, and starting off, I wasn't healthy starting off, but I was 74 kg, went to the gym, had a good amount of muscle mass. I dropped down to 64 kg in 8 months.
Wow.
And yeah, I lost all my muscle.
Jesus,
my
man.
gut took a big hit, and my mental health, because you're not getting those essential nutrients.
Yeah.
Like, people don't look at B12, creatine. Those things are essential for brain function. You're not going to get that on a vegan diet.
And even just for muscle mass as well, man, you're not getting the same amino acid
100%.
profile with the vegan. Like, where is that coming from? This is why meat is so important.
It is. And if you look at the protein profile of plants, it's not the same. You can't get the essential amino acids. Now, saying that, you can in certain vegan foods like tofu, lentils, but then you have to look at things like anti-nutrients and how bioavailable the protein is.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that isn't talked about, because you can eat lentils, it's a complete protein, but is your body going to be able to absorb that fully if your gut isn't in a good state? No, most likely not. Whereas animal products, it's very bioavailable. Your body will absorb a lot more of that protein. You'll be able to use it better.
And doesn't that make sense then why we've been doing it for so many years?
100%.
And there's a big push nowadays, man, especially, you know, just being online and seeing what's been said, that it looks that red meat is being condoned and condemned and something that we shouldn't eat. And then at the same time, when you look at the nutritional profile of it, it's like, why wouldn't we eat this source of meat? Because it's going to make us healthier, more, you know, more, I think the word I'm looking for is like more vitalized.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Because so what was that switch like then when you went from vegan and then you started turning the tide a small bit?
Yeah, I slowly started to transition. So I think the first thing I included back in my diet was red meat. And within weeks, you feel like a new person, because you're getting those essential nutrients.
Yeah.
Like, you get the energy. And then I started introducing liver, and just from there, like, you're a new person. You're getting those vitamins, you're getting those nutrients into your diet. And yeah, so I never looked back. But I'm thankful I only went vegan for 8 months, because there's a lot of people who do it for years.
Yeah.
And at the start, you do feel great. I felt great for a good few weeks, because your body gets put into a catabolic state. It starts to break down. So you're on like a modified fast when you're vegan. And we know fasting can be beneficial from a longevity standpoint and for your overall health.
Yeah.
So when you go vegan at first, you will feel great. It's like the honeymoon period, but it will all come crashing down.
That's a great way of saying it, man, the honeymoon period. So was food was one of the things that you did change. Was there anything else? So you did suffer, sorry, I know you did mention already, when you were 16, so you ended up in hospital at one stage. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. So when you first get into it, you're young, your body can handle a lot of stress. So I put my body through a lot of stress.
Yeah.
I was working out 6 days a week. I was cycling or running every day, and I was going to work on top of that. So I felt great, like, because your body's handling that stress until it doesn't, and that's the issue. And one day I was just in the gym doing some deadlifts, and I just tore my chest. And at the time, like, I didn't even realize that happened. And it was only a few hours later that I started getting these really weird reactions, started getting really lightheaded. I feel so ill. And my mom just ends up taking me to the hospital. And then they're like, oh yeah, your creatine kinase levels, they're really, really elevated. You tore your chest open. Like, you're lucky you came to the hospital and all this. And I was like, fuck.
And that's a byproduct of muscle breakdown,
Yeah,
is it? Yeah.
When your muscle breaks down, it produces an enzyme known as creatine kinase.
Yes.
So it's a byproduct. And mine was so elevated because I tore my chest open. And
Jesus.
yeah, after that, I couldn't train for like a year. I couldn't do anything really. And it suffered, my breathing suffered a lot because of a consequence of it. Like, kind of shut down my rib cage, and it was hard to like get a full breath of air. And being asthmatic, that wasn't good at that age. So when I found Wim Hof breathing, that really helped with my asthma. That's why I cured my chronic asthma, actually.
Wim Hof did?
Yeah.
No way.
Just through breath work and strengthening my lungs, nasal breathing.
Oh man, that is a great point you just hit on. Like I know we focus so much on, you know, the outside and how we look physically, but I think one of the most important muscles that you can train is your diaphragm and building up strength there. Because with that control of your breath, you come to realize that you can control your nervous system, which then helps with, you know, your mind. You feel more, like I touched on before we got going, you just feel at peace then, you feel at ease.
100%.
Because people that are naturally anxious, when they breathe very fast, then they breathe very shallow. They don't get that depth, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now, obviously that's exaggerated, but like this is where you train your diaphragm, is so that you can breathe better and feel more at ease in the body that you have.
Yeah, that's the issue, because people are chronic mouth breathers, and
Yeah.
that has so many bad side effects.
Would you be a mouth taper yourself?
I would be, yeah, especially at night. I tape my
Team
mouth.
mouth tape over here.
Yeah. And yeah, it just developed my jawline even so much since I started
Yeah.
practicing nasal breathing, mewing, including masticum.
Masticum's great, man.
It's a game changer.
It is, man. Training the old masseters, I think they're called.
Mm.
Dan told me that before. But yeah, man, that's really interesting. I just think it's crazy. Obviously, something, so bad happened to you, tearing that muscle in your pec or your chest, and for you to turn, do a 360 spin basically and go so down the rabbit hole of health and wellness. It's so interesting to see. And off the back of that, how long ago has it been since you set up, is it the Health Optimization Project? Is that
It
what it's
is,
called?
yeah.
Yeah. How long ago did you set that up?
I just launched in the new year.
Oh, you actually
Yeah.
told me that. Yeah, was it March, April time?
No, I launched in January.
Oh, you did start in
Yeah,
January. But then you started a course, is it? There's a course I want to...
See, I've been down the rabbit hole a long time. It's been
Yeah.
years of just studying, just slaving away,
You're starting to
building
see-
my
You're
knowledge.
starting to see the light now.
Yeah, definitely. Like for the first few years, it's so confusing. You can't decipher what's misinformation and what isn't. So then you're led to believe, well, do I do this? Do I do that? But the biggest thing that helped me was critical thinking, learning to think for yourself and applying like ancestral wisdom. Like, would our ancestors do this or would they do something else?
Yeah.
And that's what's really helped me decipher what's bullshit and what's fact.
Yeah, man, I like what you said there. Ancestral way of living, the primal way of living, man. The primal
yeah.
way of living, man. That I'm telling you, bro. Why don't we just go back to how we once done it? You know what I mean? We're living outdoors. Well, obviously, I don't want to go living outdoors. I like my shelter. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to say is, we'll touch on a few health practices now because this kind of guides us nicely into it. Being more in tune with nature and just what's around us, and optimizing ourselves for our biology. Like, even if we touch on a topic like grounding, for example, like how many people, man, are walking around this earth and never getting their soles of their feet on the ground and absorbing electrons up to the soles of your feet, and it's having such a positive impact on your body. Like let's go down the rabbit hole on that, because I know it's something you're very passionate about as well.
Yeah, grounding.
How long ago was it that you got into grounding?
Probably not as long as you think. It's
Oh,
only
yeah.
been about a year.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's not something that's spoken about enough, but it's fundamental. Like
fundamental is
light-
a word, man.
light, water, magnetism, which is grounding. Those
Yes.
three are foundational for health and wellness. Like people focus too much on supplements, exercise. Yes, they're
Bullshit.
critical.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the foundations in place, they won't matter. And for grounding, if we just look at it from an evolutionary perspective, we spent millions of years connected to the earth 24/7.
Yeah.
And you're going to see what's the benefits to this. So when you're connected to the earth, as you were saying, the earth is a slightly negative charge.
Yes,
So there's an abundance of free-flowing electrons.
that's right.
These get passed into the system and it reduces oxidative stress. It reduces inflammation in the body. And we struggle with oxidative stress. That's a massive root cause of disease nowadays, because if you look at it at a fundamental level, where does disease come from? Mitochondrial dysfunction. When things go wrong in the body at a cellular level,
Yeah.
and that's when disease starts to manifest itself slowly. So doing these health practices that are going to put your body into an optimal state of function, such as grounding, getting sunlight, and hydrating yourself properly.
Yeah, man.
Those three.
I like the word you used there for absorbing the electrons of magnetism.
Magnetism, yeah.
Or magnetism. Yeah, man. I just think that's probably one of, from a personal point of view, probably the most important of nearly, I know getting sunlight is very important as well, but just something so simple as getting your bare feet on the ground, man, the benefits it does for you. And even from the perspective of reducing cortisol in your body. You know what I mean? And there's a study I was looking into before we done this, and it was an 8-week study, mix of male and female, about 50 participants took part in it, and they measured the amount of cortisol before they grounded, before they went to bed, and it was sky high, man. And after they'd done it, just the reduction in inflammation, and I don't know if you've ever seen that photo, you definitely have, of where they put people into some sort of scanner,
Yeah.
and they're looking at their whole body, and before they get grounded, they're full of inflammation, they're all red and bits of yellow everywhere, and it's basically a profile of their back, a picture of their back. And after they've grounded, less information, man. You're seeing these colors of blue and green, and just everything just looks a bit easier on the eye as well. And it just goes to show, man, like someone that grounds themselves on a regular basis is going to have a more healthier body. They're going to have a more, healthier system, and it's going to affect you in the mental sense as well, because you're going to have a better outlook on life, man, because there's less stress happening in your body, which I think is so important. Is there anything on the topic of grounding that has caught your eye in the past, or anything else?
Yeah, like if you look at the surface level benefits, like just list some of them: improves your blood pressure, reduces inflammation, you're going to sleep better.
Improves immunity as well.
Yeah, immunity, that's another one,
yeah.
And you're going to reduce stress because you're connected to the earth, you're reducing inflammation, oxidative stress. But if we really break it down and we see what's happening at like a cellular level, you're just, on a cellular level, we're made up of atoms.
That's
and
right.
atoms have a frequency, everything's energy, everything vibrates at a certain frequency.
Even the stable.
Exactly, yeah. People don't realize that, but it is simple physics. It sounds like hippie shit because a lot of people would say, oh, that's just hippie science, but it's not. It's a well-studied area. So if you look at the body and understand that it functions optimally at a certain frequency, and there's so many things in this day and age that takes us away from that optimal frequency, but grounding allows you to connect to the earth and it allows you to really dial in that optimal frequency. So your body's going to work a lot better.
100%. Does it make sense, man? Like you're like a big battery. How are you
exactly, the best way to put it.
How are you charging yourself up? You know what I mean? You wouldn't not go to bed and charge your phone. The same way that you shouldn't live your life and not be connected to the earth. Exactly. That is providing life for you. You know what I mean? We would not be here without it. So I think, yeah, man, and it just goes like connection. I love that word, man, because you know, connection to the earth, connection to people, it's really important to have because when that happens, you're in a better place. Whether that be for people or for the earth or whatever, is connection can only have a positive outcome. The way I'm seeing it, anyway. You mentioned we'll go down the route of frequencies, and testosterone is another topic I'd love to speak to you about. But you know, we're all glued to our phones day and night nowadays, and they're obviously emitting frequencies that are not very healthy for us. And I know this is something you've studied as well, is EMFs. What's the verdict on EMFs, and how tragic and bad is the news you're about to deliver? It's not looking good.
No, a lot of people don't want to hear it, but EMFs are terrible. And it's a root cause of a lot of disease. And it's not the only thing, it's not the only factor at play, but it's a massive thing contributing to disease and illness.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the statistics of EMFs, they have increased by 30 million in the last 30 years, I think it is.
Yeah, well, you think, man,
exponential increase.
It's crazy. And just think about it even from your phone's perspective as well. You turn on your mobile data and you've got 3G, 4G, and 5G. And the higher it goes up, the more radiation that's going to be in the air or going to be connected to your phone. It's just, it's causing a lot of damage to your body because it's disrupting the signal of communication, and it's also causing your tissues to become damaged.
It is, yeah.
And where do people have their phones, especially from a male perspective, where do males have their phone a lot of the time?
Yeah, their pocket.
In their pocket, man.
Their balls. Yeah.
Beside their testicles, man. Like, and I was saying this to you before we got going, it's like, if that is the case, and look, I do it too, and I'm trying to become more aware of it, and I would put my phone on airplane mode or have it in my back pocket or not have it close to my genitalia. But basically what you're doing, man, if you have your phone on and it's on or not on airplane mode, if you've got your data on, it's like putting your testicles in the microwave, man. There's too much radiation there, and that's having a massive effect on testosterone levels as well.
It is. And if you look at the statistics and the studies done, like it decreases testosterone because it decreases your testicles' ability to produce the testosterone.
Yeah, and produce sperm, and sperm's affected as well. Yeah.
Like if you look at the studies, by 2045, sperm counts are meant to be 0. If we keep going the way we're going, there's going to be a fertility crisis.
Oh man, I think it's happening already. Like fertility clinics are definitely out the door, and I don't know, what sex is more to blame, or not even blame is a poor word to use, but like I think it's from the male's perspective, man, is the bigger issue than the female, because I just think, man, it's heading towards a crisis, right? Because like you said there, 2040, there's going to be no testosterone or sperm. What are we going to turn into? Like these non-genderless, sexless beings? We might as well be aliens, man.
Exactly.
We might as well be aliens. But how could you turn the tide if you're, listening to this now, or maybe taking this information in? What practices could you do to mitigate that, or help, or improve your testosterone or improve your sperm quality? Is there anything that comes to mind? Because I know.
Yeah, so
a bit about this.
If we want to look at fertility and testosterone, they go hand in hand. So a lot of people will look at fertility and they're like, oh, I already had kids, I don't need to worry about fertility. Or I'm so young, I don't need to worry about fertility. But I recently seen the statistic, and men who have lower sperm counts, they are 43% more likely to die of all-cause mortality versus men with higher sperm counts. So sperm counts is a brilliant indicator of your overall health.
Okay.
And if your sperm counts are low, your testosterone is going to be low, and vice versa. So when you want to optimize your testosterone, it's already going to optimize your sperm count.
Yeah.
So some of the easy things you can do is keep your phone away from your body, or if it's on your body, put it in airplane mode.
Yeah.
Because this is going to reduce the EMFs.
I wonder how many people are going to take this advice on board, man. Because I've heard it before as well. And like I was saying, it's very hard to implement because we're so habituated to do what we've always done day after day after day.
Definitely.
And how long has the phone been around, man? Like how many years have men been maybe, having their phone in their pocket?
Yeah.
I think if there is one step, like you said, get it as far away as possible from your testicles at least. Because I know about obviously when EMFs are so close, like when the phone is emitting EMFs from the phone, and what it's doing is disrupting all the sperm inside your testicles, man. And it's affecting the motility of sperm, how they move, the morphology, how they look.
Exactly.
And it's just, it's a bad place to be, man. You want your sperm to be in the best possible nick that it can be, and having your phone there is not a good, it's not going to work.
No, it's
not going to work.
I think we should break down EMFs a bit more because I think people at home might not know what we're on about, but EMF stands for electrical magnetic frequencies. So EMFs are natural. The Earth has its own EMF field, and that's called the Schumann's resonance. So they're definitely something that's critical for life on Earth, but the issue is we're exposed to non-native EMFs. And that's
artificial.
Yeah, artificial. So that comes from things like laptops, phone, Wi-Fi routers, anything that's electronic will release EMFs.
Yeah.
And now, why is this bad? So we have to look at it from a cellular level. So if you imagine the body as one big orchestra, so imagine an orchestra, they're playing a beautiful song, and there's one guy in the orchestra, he's just screeching. That's going to ruin the entire frequency, the entire melody of the rest of the orchestra. So now imagine your body the same way. It works in synchronization with each other. All the organs are connected.
Yeah.
There's 100,000 biochemical reactions each second in your body. So if you have these EMFs, these frequencies are coming into the body, they're disrupting that natural melody of the body. And how this works is it just disrupts this thing called voltage-gated calcium channels. And this creates nitric oxide, superoxide, these two compounds, they combine, and something called perioxynitrite. And this just creates massive amounts of oxidative stress, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And what does that do? It creates massive amounts of inflammation. It's going to damage DNA over time. It's going to damage cells over time. And what were we speaking about earlier? What's the best way to decrease oxidative stress? Grounding.
Maybe get your feet in the ground.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's more important than it ever was to get grounded because we're constantly bathing in EMFs.
Bathing, that is a word, man. And one thing I've become so aware of as well is having your phone next to your head, like next to your brain. Like how, because your brain operates in waves as well. If you're having your phone next to your head, that's just going to disrupt the whole system. Like, and I think it's just so damn, man. The world we're living in, there's so much out there. It's like, it's like there's so much to be aware of, and
it is.
There's dangers everywhere.
There is,
probably more so than ever before.
Yeah, but that's also the issue as well because people at home might get scared listening to this because being scared is just as bad as not being self-aware because you're just creating that stress response in the body. So you want to be self-aware, but realize just do the practices that are going to put your body into a better state of function.
Yeah. And when you're grounding yourself, what do you prefer the grass? Do you prefer the sand? Do you prefer the mud? Is there a particular type of area you'd like to have the feet on?
So the best place to ground for anyone at home
is it?
Yeah, it's the beach.
Is it? Why is that?
Because when you are on wet sand, it's going to increase the conductivity and you're going to get more electrons flowing into the body.
Interesting.
So if you want to get the maximum benefits, go to the beach, walk in the water, walk in the wet sand. But saying that, you can ground anywhere. Yeah. Even concrete, people don't realize if you stand barefoot in concrete, that's a conductor. It will conduct the electrons.
Up through the concrete?
Yeah, concrete works. The only thing that doesn't is tarmac. Wood. They don't work.
Of course,
yeah, but apart from that, everything else works. Clay, mud, grass.
And do you have a grounded mattress as well or a grounded blanket?
I do.
You do? Yeah.
Little mat that I put on my bed and I stay grounded that way. But
how effective are they?
See, that's what I want to get into. Some people are very against them. Some people are for them. But I think they can be beneficial.
Yeah.
Some people would recommend, say, now this is going really overboard, but getting a copper wire and connecting it to the mat, to your bed, and having like silver wiring around your bed. And then you put the copper wire outside your window and you connect it to the earth. But it can be bad because it can pick up like 5G frequencies.
Oh God,
and then you're just bathing in EMFs yet again. So
yeah. Something to be, that's maybe a bit too far.
It is, a bit too far. But some people will talk about that online.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these biohackers and they're always like, oh, take this supplement, take this gadget's best for doing this. Like, if you're not nailing the fundamentals, none of that matters.
No, not at all. And I think it's just, if you can convey anything to people, it's just give them simple advice.
It is.
You know what I mean? Take your shoes off, take your socks off, and just walk barefoot.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered ground pretty well. Tell me, let's touch on sunlight. I know obviously you're looking quite tan there yourself.
Yeah.
Even though we're in Ireland, it's you can get a bit of sun here, man.
You can. And if you look at me, I'm red haired. So I have a good tan for a ginger. So it's all about your health and doing safe sun exposure.
Safe sun exposure. I like the way you said that, man.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important. Like, you're not meant to bathe in the sun all day. And I think a big thing with the sun, man, that I've realized over the years as well, like anything in life, you have to build up a tolerance to it.
Exactly.
And if you expose yourself to too much sunlight, of course you're going to burn and feel the effects of that. And I also think, man, with sunlight, it's a great indicator, or it almost shines a light on how healthy you are. And the reason why I say that is, if you're out in the sun and your body has a lot of inflammation already, you will burn.
Exactly.
You'll burn badly. But if your system is running healthily, you're going to tan. Because that's the natural way it's meant to be. You're not meant to, man, what are we doing burning? You know what I mean? It's not how it's meant to be at all. Is there anything that sticks out in your own mind in regards to, sunlight exposure, or just getting sun on your skin, or light frequencies?
Yeah, let's touch on this. So let's first of all debunk the biggest myth out there.
Yeah.
That the sun causes skin cancer. So let's look
that's the number one cancer in Ireland.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is crazy, man. We got one of the wettest Julys ever. It rained. How isn't it quite funny, man? We don't get a lot of sun.
Yeah.
But somehow, for whatever reason, the number one cancer in Ireland is skin cancer.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's what I was going to bring up just there. So if we look at some of the research, the highest rates of skin cancer are the furthest away from the equator, the countries that get the least amount of sunlight. So if skin cancer is driven by sunlight, how come it's so high in Ireland? But if we look at countries like Africa and other countries beside the equator, it's so low. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, does it?
Doesn't make sense at all.
No, it doesn't make sense. Saying that, sun, you don't want to burn. And how do you avoid burning? First of all, you want to go out in the morning and get low UV sun. Yeah. This is going to prime your body for later in the day when the UV rays are higher. Saying that as well, you need to build up your solar callus. So like exercise, your body adapts. The body is very adaptable. It will adapt to stressors like exercise, sunlight. So the more sun you get, the more adapted you're going to get to the sunlight through melanocytes. Your melanocytes produce melanin, and that's how you tan. Saying that as well, melanin.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, it's the superhuman hormone.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, well, that's what I call it.
Okay.
People always talk about testosterone. All those things are great, but melanin is such an overlooked hormone. Yeah. It's critical in the body. And sunlight is just critical. Like, people don't realize what's fundamental to health, your mitochondrial health. And everyone thinks about energy. So the food you eat is broken down into ATP, and that's what produces energy in the body. But the mitochondria, they also require sunlight to function. People don't realize that. Without sunlight, your mitochondria can't function. The body has evolved to make its own UV rays when times there was no sunlight, whatever reason that may be, through evolution. So if you want to optimize your mitochondria, the best way to do that is get more sunlight, get more sun exposure, especially sunset and sunrise, because it's going to be very high in infrared rays, and that's what the best light wavelength is for optimizing your mitochondria.
And is that just to keep the circadian rhythm in check, or what's happening there? Sorry, actually going back to the point you made about mitochondria, why is sunlight so important too? Because mitochondria is the term for it is like the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah, the powerhouse
keeps it running.
of the cell, yeah.
So when the sunlight is hitting us, what's it doing on a cellular level?
So on a cellular level, light energy, UV rays, are required for your mitochondria to function. So they're taken up by an enzyme called cytochrome C, I think it's called. And it just really dials in your mitochondria and allows it to work better. So if we touch on circadian rhythm, people just think circadian rhythm is tied to sleep. But circadian rhythm is fundamental for your entire body.
For every function.
Yeah, exactly. Like, circadian rhythm is needed to repair cells, grow cells.
Tell you when to eat, sleep,
exactly.
Get up, move, everything.
Yeah, when you get light in your eyes, it hits something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus.
Good man, you know your stuff.
Yeah, and that's the body's clock. That's the central clock. And it's connected to all the major organ systems. So you want to get sunlight in the eyes as soon as possible when you wake up.
This is why it's so important, man, to have, a proper wake cycle, a proper sleep cycle, and just be so dialed in with them. Because you can optimize yourself.
You can.
I think sleep's definitely a big factor in that. But sorry, was there anything else you'd like to mention about the sun? apart from it being absolutely amazing?
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah.
But if we just touch a bit more on circadian rhythm,
Yeah.
the biggest driver of optimizing your circadian rhythm is light.
Yeah.
So getting outside in the morning and getting sun exposure for 5 to 10 minutes when the sun is out, that's just minimum requirements. You want to get a lot more. Or 20 to 30 minutes if it's cloudy. Now, I know it's hard in Ireland, but even if it's dark and gloomy outside, people don't realize there's still a lot of light energy. It's still very bright out.
Yeah, you have to provide yourself with that information by going outside and getting it. And yeah, man, it's tough. I suppose a lot of people just are getting up in the morning and going running to work. They're not thinking about, optimizing their health or looking after themselves in that way. But it's just something, it's another thing to be aware of, isn't it? Getting like proper light, because artificial light is so dangerous. Because that's like all misinformation for the body.
The best way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think we've covered some pretty well. I want to touch on the biggest organ in our body, which is obviously our skin. Like I mentioned there about the case that we have here in Ireland, and endocrine disruptors as well, man. That's a massive one nowadays, and something when I learned about, I cut out using deodorants and shampoos and conditioners and body wash, man, all that bullshit, man, because that's what it is, all these parabens and what else is in them?
Oh, there's countless chemicals.
But anyway, man, they have a massive effect on your endocrine system. And I think from a male perspective as well, man, when you're using all these and they're disrupting your hormones in your body, it's almost going to make you more feminine as well.
It does. Yeah.
Is that the case? Is that right?
Yeah, you'd be right in saying that. And a big one is plastic products. We live in an environment that everything's plastic. You're constantly exposed to it. And things like BPA, phthalates, they are estrogen mimicking compounds. So what that means, basically, it'll go into your body, it will mimic estrogen, and it will turn testosterone to estrogen.
That's not good for a man.
No, it's not. No. It's turning you basically into a female over time.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And this is another thing, once again, to be aware of as well, is like, this is out here as well. You know what I mean? I just think, man, if you can live your life as natural as possible, well, obviously keep yourself nice and clean. And because there is ways of doing it, man. There's different types of soaps that are not, they don't have hundreds of chemicals inside them that are going to affect you in a negative sense. It's just, it's something just to be aware of again. I remember when I first came across this, I think is it Ben Greenfield?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. He was talking about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was brought in at the time to work with it was an American football team, and he couldn't believe them, man. They're all using like strawberry shampoos and all this, and he's like, he could not believe it, because obviously he's so health conscious and he knew about it before anyone else did. And I think this is why it's important to talk about it, man, because then more people can learn about it and move away from it as well. Because like you said, man, there's a lot of estrogen in your body, and the more estrogen there is, the more feminine you're going to be. And leading into the next thing I'd love to talk about is alcohol, and especially beer in men as well, man. I honestly think, bro, at this stage now, because I've had a period of time of drinking beer and doing all that shit and drinking everything else, but it's like, that's having a real negative effect on my masculinity.
It is.
Yeah, massively so, man. Pumping all, because what is it, phytoestrogens in beer?
Yeah, so let's touch on that.
Yeah.
So beer is always touted as the most manly drink you can drink. If you're going to drink beer because it's manly, but in reality, beer is the least manly drink you can drink. If you're going to drink, choose something like whiskey, vodka.
Be a real man.
Yeah, be a real man. But no, neither of them are good for you. But
no, yeah, of course.
If we look at beer is the most potent phytoestrogen. Like, the most potent phytoestrogen you can get is in beer.
And that only comes from like things like
hops.
Hops.
That's what's in beer. And yeah, it destroys your testosterone levels because it directly affects these things called the Leydig cells in your testes. And then it's going to disrupt the ability to make sperm, to make testosterone. And it's not even just about testosterone. Alcohol has effects on the entire body.
It's crazy, man. Yeah. It's literally like poison, isn't it?
It is.
Alcohol is like poison.
That's exactly what it is.
If it came out today, man, and they're like, listen, I've got this, this liquid, this drink, and it'll do it. You could list it out, man. The benefits and the cons. You'd be like, oh, get that fucking stuff away from me, man. I wouldn't go near that stuff.
100%.
But man, it's so socially acceptable nowadays that we just do it, and it happens all the time, and it happens on a daily basis. And then people are wondering why their health is falling through the floor, man, and they might be dealing with like different skin conditions or whatever it may be, man. They're like, they don't see the correlation. It could be alcohol.
Yeah,
they're so negative. They're not negligent. They're negligent towards it because it's their fun, it's their enjoyment,
exactly.
man. Which is that's another tricky place to be in, man.
Yeah, let's touch on alcohol. So straight away, if we look at Irish culture, it's so normalized. You're looked at as a weirdo if you don't drink.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was a big drinker myself because what do teenagers do for fun? Well. Exactly, yeah. They drink alcohol.
Yeah.
But when you actually break it down and you see the effects in the body, it's terrible. Like even one drink a day, like a glass of wine, beer, it will disrupt the grey matter in your brain. And that's responsible for memory, critical thinking, stuff like that. And alcohol is one thing that absolutely destroys your gut health.
Yeah.
Like that's a massive overlooked area. And your gut is connected to your brain on an axis. And when your gut is unhealthy, your brain's going to be unhealthy. And what do we have nowadays? A massive mental health crisis.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Yeah. That's a really, really good point.
And alcohol, even independently of just destroying the gut and affecting the brain, it will directly increase depression, it will increase anxiety, it will increase your levels of stress, because when you consume alcohol and come away from it, the body it goes cold turkey and you're going to crave it. Because if you're drinking every weekend and you stop, during the week, your body craves alcohol, it craves the ethanol. You become adapted to it.
What a hangover is, man, is like you mentioned, withdrawals. It's alcohol withdrawals. Exactly. That's what your body wants more of. And that's why it feels so bad to be hungover, man. And you talked about the gut-brain axis there as well, man. How many people suffer hangovers where they feel depressed out of their head? Exactly. Like I have.
Same.
It's been awful. And all these thoughts are so dark. They're just no energy. Like it's a bad place to be, man. And there's so many negatives to it. But at the same time, man, it's people, that's their fun, you know what I mean?
It is. And that's the problem, that people rely on alcohol for their fun. And I was down that rabbit hole. I needed alcohol to go out and have fun.
To socialise.
Yeah, to socialise, because people are too afraid to be in public. They judge themselves. They think everyone's judging them. So then they drink alcohol. They forget about all their inner demons. And it's an escape method. That's the whole reason I'm so against it. And like growing up, I drank. I only recently gave it up. It's not as if I'm off for years. But I think if you really want to improve your life as a man and just in general, cutting out alcohol or at least reducing it. Like even, I don't suffer with my mental health anymore, but when I was drinking, even days after, you're just groggy. You're not functioning properly. If we just talk about how you actually feel on it and don't go into like any negative health effects from it, you just feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like your brain doesn't work properly for a few days after.
Big time.
And it takes you away from your purpose, if that's work, whatever. Even the gym, like it destroys your training.
Man, it takes you 2 or 3 days to recover, like mentally, physically, and every other way. But the one thing I've realised as well, man, in the last while, just getting more down the rabbit hole of self-development, is like the highest performers that are out there, man, they're very conscious and very aware what they're drinking and if they drink at all.
Exactly.
They might not drink at all because they're like, I need to perform here. I've got a business. I'm moving myself forward in life. I can't be distracting myself or taking... like you're removing days from your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're trying to recover and just get your energy back. I think, man, I just love the way you're 20, bro, and you're aware of this now, man. That's only a recipe for success. You know what I mean? You're heading in the right direction when you're on top of these things, because your health comes first, man.
It does.
And once again, man, when like your health is your wealth, and when there's days you're recovering, you're like, you're just in a bad place, man.
Yeah,
in a very, very bad place.
Like people don't think about their health till it's too late. And it's like that famous quote. A healthy man wants 1,000 things, but a sick man wants one. He wants his health back.
Yeah.
And it's only when like you're laying in a hospital bed or you're suffering at home with your health, you're like, nothing else matters. Money doesn't matter.
And you can't look after anyone else if your health fails. This is why it's so critical and so, it's so fundamental. Your health is.
Yeah.
Because nothing else works unless you work. That's how it goes. Listen, I want to touch on the topic of testosterone. I know it's something that you're interested in. We've kind of breezily touched on it so far. When you're looking at people's blood work, because that's what you do, how do you go about optimizing their testosterone? Or is there any practices or protocols that you'll give them to, make them feel more manly?
100%. So we'll touch on that, but let's quickly touch on some statistics.
Okay, go for it.
So if we look at the statistics of testosterone, the average 20-year-old male in their late 20s have the same levels of testosterone as a 67-year-old man like 100 years ago. So your great-granddad had the same testosterone levels as you.
Madness.
And like every set of bloods I look at, most men, like 9 out of 10, have low testosterone. Yeah. It's suboptimal levels.
I heard a phrase there recently. It's like you're half the man that your father was, or if even a quarter of that now, man.
And it couldn't be more but true. It's so true. And like testosterone's critical. It's often demonized in mainstream media as something that's toxic masculinity.
I honestly think the only thing toxic, like that phrase, toxic masculinity, the only thing toxic is there's going to be no masculinity left. There's going to be nothing. We won't know about it, man. It's not going to be here.
Exactly.
And when you have loads of testosterone coursing to your body, you're vitalized, you're motivated, you find a purpose with life, you start moving yourself forward, you feel like a man.
Mm-hmm.
Where men nowadays, man, if you ask the average man, do you feel like a man? I don't know what you'd feel like, you know what I mean? The testosterone levels on the floor.
They are.
And no interest to try and build it back up.
No. And if you look at since the 2000s, the testosterone's decreasing 1% every year.
I read that, yeah.
And let's look at the health effects of low testosterone. So as a man, you're more likely to suffer from obesity. Well, obesity is a byproduct. If you're obese, your testosterone levels are going to be low. And you're more likely to suffer from diabetes, heart disease. You're going to die earlier if your testosterone's low because it's that vitality hormone for men.
Vitality, man. I love that word.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
critical.
It is.
It makes you strong. It makes you robust. And it makes you feel better. Like you go through your life feeling 10 times better because your mental health's going to be better. If you have low testosterone, you're going to suffer from depression. You're going to suffer from high amounts of stress. Your body can't handle stress as well.
The characteristics of a man changes when he has high testosterone in his body, man.
Exactly.
Literally, he's a man. You know,
yeah, exactly.
He is the man. You know what I mean?
The easiest way to put it.
That's the best way of saying it, man. And it's like many men, you're looking around and they're walking so aimless, no conviction with life, no motivation to get up and move their body or conquer their world. They just conquer their own world.
Exactly.
And just, it's frustrating, man. And look, I'm not someone who has an abundance of testosterone. I'm trying to build my own up as well. But it's like, I think it's a hormone. We need more talk about it. We need to become more aware of it as well.
And if you look at the ranges used by conventional medical care systems, so the ranges they use, it's between 8.64 millimoles per litre and 29 millimoles per litre.
And is that low?
They have a very wide range. That's the issue. So who goes to the doctors nowadays? People who are sick, people who are unhealthy, suffering with their health.
And that's what they're gauging it off.
Exactly. Any blood work that a doctor will do for you is gauged off a sick and unhealthy population. That's why it's bullshit getting your bloods done at a doctor's. They don't know how to interpret blood work, and that's the issue. So you could get your testosterone checked with the doctors. It could come back, say, 10 or 12 millimoles per litre. And they're going to say, oh, your testosterone's fine, but it's not, because what's the optimal range for testosterone? This is a big factor.
Yeah.
So if you look at the literature and they say what is needed for optimal health, it's between 24.64 millimoles per litre and 31.2 millimoles per litre.
Oh, so it's not 8, it's 24.
That's the bare minimum. You want to have at least 24.2, I think I said.
Have you done your own blood work in the last
I have, yeah.
And what was your own testosterone levels?
Like even for me, a 20-year-old man, my testosterone was just in the optimal range. I think it was
like the actual optimal range.
Yeah, it was 24.9.
Jeez, that's high, man.
Yeah, so I think that's about 750 nanograms per deciliter for anyone who functions off that.
Yeah. Sorry, how much did there?
750 nanograms per deciliter. Because a lot of people look at nanograms.
That's good, bro.
Yeah, so if the optimal range you want it between 700 and 900 nanograms per deciliter.
And that's modern day, that's high.
That's high. It's hard to get. Any blood work I've seen, like men don't have the high of testosterone.
And what are you doing to get your blood work up there? Because that's very impressive.
Yeah, so that was the first time getting my bloods done ever.
Yeah.
And even myself, someone who's quite healthy, because I prioritize my health, I found things that I didn't even know had wrong with me, like certain gut issues, because people don't realize if you go from being really unhealthy your entire life and then you start living a really healthy lifestyle, the damage is done. It's under the surface. So you might feel great, but you have to repair that years of dysfunction and abuse in the body.
That's why you actually don't get away with it, man. I remember you said earlier on, like when you're 16, 17, you think you get away with it. And look,
you don't.
When you're that age, you're not thinking, you know, what will I be when I'm 10 years later? But you develop these habits in your young 20s or late teenage years. This is why developing the habit of, you know, looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, looking after your health is so critical. Big time.
Yeah, and like chronic disease, it doesn't just pop out of nowhere. People are like, oh, heart disease, all these chronic diseases, they pop out of nowhere. It's genetics. It's not. It's from years of abusing your body, living a shitty lifestyle, eating bad foods. And to repair that damage, you need to look at the root cause of things. So if we look at testosterone, for example, straight away, people are thinking things like ashwagandha, shilajit, tonga ali. They're just some common supplements people would take.
The old herbs.
Yeah, the old herbs. They're adaptogens. They're great for testosterone.
Yeah.
But if you're just taking supplements to increase your testosterone, you're no better than the average doctor, because what do doctors do to get people healthy? They treat symptoms. If you go to the doctors with bloating, depression, anything like that, they're going to put you on, say, SSRIs for your depression, but they're not going to look at the root cause. That's what's missing from the modern medical system.
Yeah.
They don't take a root cause approach. So we need to take that same approach for optimizing your testosterone levels. We need to look at, well, why is it low? Not about taking this supplement to increase it. And oftentimes it could be just driven through nutrition or lifestyle, poor habits that are making your testosterone low.
And have you ever seen someone that's came to you that's somewhat healthy and their testosterone is low? If they are doing, and what would the reason behind that be?
So
I know it's a very complicated question because it's very broad.
No, but oftentimes it could be something as simple as they're not doing the things in their lifestyle to get high testosterone. We'll touch on that in a few minutes. But other times it can be other issues that are causing your testosterone to be low. So as I was saying, we don't want to just look at the symptom. Testosterone being low is the symptom.
Yeah.
We want to look at why is it low. So oftentimes it can be low because there's dysfunction in the gut. You could be suffering from gut issues and that directly will affect your testosterone levels because what did we say earlier? The body's a holistic system. Everything's connected. And leaky gut, that's such a massive problem nowadays. We'll touch on that maybe a bit later on.
Yeah.
But leaky gut, for example, that's going to directly create inflammation and systemic inflammation. That's going to affect the Leydig cells in the testes, and that Leydig cells is what's producing testosterone. So things like gut issues, all these things will directly correlate with low testosterone. And even other hormones, people like focus too much on testosterone. Things like prolactin, sex hormone binding globulin, estrogen, when these are high, it's going to lower your testosterone. So looking at blood work, a lot of men would come to me and they're like, I just want to get my testosterone checked. I just want to see if I have high testosterone. I'm like, if you get your testosterone checked and it comes back low, we can't do anything with that. We can assess your symptoms and see what's going wrong in your lifestyle or diet. But if we can't see how the full body's functioning, we can't see how we can optimize your physiological function to optimize your testosterone levels. So for example, a client I had recently, he had low testosterone, but instead of putting him on like Tonga Ali or something, I seen straight away in his blood work that he had high sex hormone binding globulin. And when that's high, it's going to reduce testosterone levels.
I actually read that, man, in Tim Ferriss's book called The 4-Hour Body, and he touched on that. And why is that the case?
So basically, it's in the name. So it just binds to testosterone and it will...
So it's taking the testosterone away?
Yeah, so it'll just reduce its efficiency in the body. So instead of treating the testosterone, we want to treat the sex hormone binding globulin.
And how do you do that?
How do we do that? So we take things like saw palmetto, that's a supplement, or take things like, what's the other one? Stinging nettle root. Supplements like that will directly lower sex hormone binding globulin. And as a result, your testosterone is going to get higher.
Yeah.
And a massive problem nowadays, what were we talking about earlier? Estrogen. That's such an issue with men. Men are walking around with really high estrogen levels. And
they look more feminine than women do, man.
They do. They're walking around with like man boobs and stuff.
Man boobs, man. They look a pair of tits bigger than their girlfriend. You know what I mean? It's madness.
Exactly.
It's madness. And then the big gut as well, man. It's such a feminine looking body and weak arms and just no strength or vitality. We're touching on that word again, vitality, man. But there's nothing about them.
100%. And if we're going to look into estrogen and how do we lower estrogen, some simple things you can do is eat raw carrots.
I love carrots, man.
Yeah, like a raw carrot salad. It was pioneered by Ray Peats. So eating raw carrots, they have unique fibers in them. These fibers will bind to estrogen in the gut. So any excess estrogen you have, it's going to be binded by the carrots and it'll just get excreted by the body. So that's an easy thing you can start doing.
That's mad.
Other things is lose body fat. So if you're a higher body fat, you have high amounts of this enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase turns testosterone into estrogen. So if you're a high body fat, straight away, you're most likely going to have lower ends of testosterone. And there is some supplements you can take to lower estrogen. Grapeseed extract's a great one. But it's more so about optimizing your full body, because if you just focus too much on like lowering estrogen, everything has to be done in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
You don't want to just treat high estrogen. You don't want to just treat low testosterone. You're treating the person. You're treating their full body because the body's a holistic system. So you need to do everything from lifestyle practices to nutrition practices. And the supplements are like the icing on the cake. They come last.
So do you look at lifestyle factors in it, lifestyle changes?
100%.
That's the main
That's
one.
the fundamentals.
So you're basically changing people's, habits and behaviors. Yeah.
So the great analogy I use, and it's my logo for my business, is the temple. And what's at the bottom of a temple? The foundation. That's what's foundational to health and wellness. So if you look at the fundamentals, we look at that as your environment. You have your internal environment and your external environment.
Yeah.
We look at your internal environment through blood work. We measure how is your body working, because blood work is like a cheat code for understanding your body. And with that, we use symptom assessment. And we also look at your external environment. This includes your lifestyle, your habits. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? And using those factors, we get to understand what exactly you need to do to optimize your body and for you to reach your goals and higher your testosterone. So if we look at some of the practices to increase your testosterone, let's look at what you shouldn't do that will decrease your testosterone. First one is poor quality sleep. The less you sleep, your body's not going to be able to function properly. High amounts of omega-6, that will directly affect the Leydig cells that we keep talking about in your testes, and Leydig cells produce testosterone. So if you're having vegetable oils, that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down, but vegetable oils
Such
like
as
rapeseed,
sunflower oil and
exactly,
canola oil.
all these things, they're high in omega-6 fatty acids, and that's going to directly affect your testosterone levels. Some other things would be chronic endurance exercise. So if you're going for long runs or cycles like yourself.
I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you, man, these long cycles, bro, they're not good for you.
No, they're not.
I'm going to do it next week. All the same. It's a once-off thing, but I definitely have
100%.
noticed, man, a difference in my testosterone. My blood work came back and my testosterone was low, and it's like I can nearly put it down to the cycling.
Exactly.
Because it's too much cortisol in your system.
Yeah,
You're
it's
burning
a stressor in the body.
It's too much of a stressor, man. How do you have any time for even, for my body to repair and think about, from the sexual point of view, because you're depleted.
Yeah,
depleted
definitely.
is the word.
Yeah, and people need to look at these things like everything is a stressor in the body, even things that are good for you, exercise, sunlight,
But chronic exercise.
Yeah, chronic exercise, like doing things in too high of amounts, that's going to be counteractive.
Yeah.
It's not going to be beneficial in the body. So exercise, like we're touching on.
Well, I think a big touching on exercise as well, man. And a big thing for a man as well is that combat side of things as well. Like we're not embracing, the side that we've always had in terms of being part of a tribe, being part of a community, going out and fighting another tribe, or that side of us, man. We don't do that. Lifting weights is great. Don't get me wrong. And I've definitely got many benefits from lifting weights, but I know you've done a small bit of combat sports as well. But they're hugely beneficial, or even being part of a team, man.
Yeah,
massively so, bro. That's going to boost your testosterone. Having that, other men around you to build you up. That's where your environment is so
100%,
important.
yeah.
You're a product of your environment. If you surround yourself with strong men, you'll become another strong man. If you surround yourself with weak men that are drinking, fucking doing who knows what all the time, it's like that's not going to build you up. It's going to make you weaker. You want to become stronger. Sorry, I interrupted you there. I could have crossed you. You were on about exercise.
Yeah, no, but it's a good point that you bring up combat sports, because a great quote I seen before, I really like it. It's like, embrace the energy that allowed you to evolve. As a man, you're made to be angry. You're made to go into combat.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should walk around your life as an angry being.
No.
You shouldn't. But there's a time and a place to let that anger out. And combat sports is how.
Point, man.
Yeah, and combat sports is how we evolve. We have evolved to be in competition with other men.
We used to go around other tribesmen killing people.
Exactly.
I'm not saying to go and do that, of course.
Exactly.
I'm talking about contextual here. I'm talking about
100%.
from what we used to do. But there's no harm in embracing that warrior side to you by
100%.
Being in a physical, demanding sport, whether that be combat or even Gaelic football. These things are so critical because they make you more manly.
100%.
You become a man.
Yeah.
Not this staying up all night, man, on an Xbox. That's doing nothing for you. You know what I mean? That's so far from what we want to be. But just exercise is critical. But like you said, it has to be the right type of exercise, done in the right way.
So yeah, if we look at exercise, so what we said is chronic exercise, endurance exercise is not good for testosterone levels. Then what is weightlifting? Sprints. Sprints are great for testosterone levels, like increasing DHT. And DHT is very powerful in the body. It has more potent effects than testosterone in the body. And a lot of people think it causes hair loss, but it doesn't. There's a lot of science around that. It's not good quality science. Because if you actually look at it, DHT, when it's raised, it doesn't really correlate with hair loss. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. But what else can decrease testosterone levels? So we said stress, we said poor quality sleep, we said vegetable oils. And
another big one nowadays, man, is the access to porn.
Yeah,
huge,
that's terrible.
Man. Think about the average man that definitely does not do any sort of semen retention.
No.
And your whole concept of what sex is just, it's not right because, it's just the concept of what it is. It's just so wrong.
It's so wrong. Like
you're watching through a screen. It's like you being in a corner of a room watching people have
sex. It turns you into
sex.
a cook. That's what I was about to say.
Man, it's not good. And then you have all this social anxiety and then you don't know how to be around women. And it's just, and I think a man's semen is his life force.
Yeah,
And
it is.
It is. And like you talked about the hormone prolactin, that's increased every time you ejaculate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to only make you weaker and more
Docile.
More docile, man.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it as well.
Mm.
And that's just a discipline, man.
It is.
That's basically just being disciplined.
It is.
That's a big part of it.
And porn is such a massive issue, especially upon young men. Like, even growing up myself, of course I watched it. Everyone's watched it growing up. But I've cut it off about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was the best decision I ever made, because it turns you into an anxious, weak man. And
it does.
And like, there's men out there who are like 16, 17 walking around with erectile dysfunction. And it's something that's not talked about because there's a stigma around it. People laugh at you when you talk about it and stuff. But a lot of men are suffering with ED. And if we touch on that topic of ED, things that men do and are normalised in today's society, such as vaping. Vaping is such a massive issue.
It's a great way to shrink your testicles.
It is. It shrinks your testicles.
I've seen a study about that recently, man.
You're over 2 times more likely to have ED. You're going to have lower
your
testosterone.
Your lungs don't function, man.
Exactly.
Think about that.
Exactly.
You're going to walk around with one punctured lung as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucking 26. You know, it's crazy, man. And they're like, oh, I love the taste of kiwi. Go eat a fucking kiwi, man.
Exactly.
Go eat a kiwi. It's crazy, bro. And that's one of the worst things, bro.
My biggest pet peeve, if I'm honest. People vaping.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that I've never done it before, because I have. But just the chronic use of it is just debilitating.
The way I put it, and a lot of people are turned off as soon as they hear this, imagine a vape is like a little binky, a doodie in your mouth. You look like a child just sucking on that all day. Like, you look like a baby.
And it's all oils, man. All these oils and chemicals. You're
made in China.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
And people coughing up lumps of phlegm and all, man. It's just not a good place to be at all.
No, it's not.
What else did you touch on there? We're talking about semen retention, exercise, lifestyle, sunlight, grounding, testosterone. Was there anything else in regards to testosterone we didn't touch on?
So we didn't cover everything you need to do and not do to increase your testosterone. Yes. So let's look at a few more. So what to avoid, we already covered a lot of those, but some other things would be tap water. Tap water is not good for testosterone and even overall health. Tap water is terrible. So if you want to improve your health today, go get a reverse osmosis filter. Filter the water, because 70 to 80% of your body is made up of water. It's essential. If you're drinking poor quality water, your body is made up of poor quality substance. So it's not only going to lower your testosterone, it's going to decrease your overall health. And
with fluoride, because they say there's a lot of fluoride in the water. What's the main concern with fluoride in the water? Does it have a massive effect on your thyroid?
Thyroid, but your pineal gland. So fluoride is a neurotoxin.
Your third eye, you mean?
Yeah, your third eye, exactly.
That'll get you closer to God.
Yeah, so...
Guaranteed as well. Yeah. But that calcifies, isn't that right?
Exactly. Without going too much down the rabbit hole, when you calcify your pineal gland, it's going to make you very docile. You can't think straight. You're not going to be able to use your brain at its full capacity. So let's not go down a conspiracy theory route of why it might be in the water, but let's just look at what it does to your health. It's a neurotoxin. They look at kids who consume tap water with fluoride, and they looked at kids who didn't. They had a much lower IQ from a young age. So it's going to make you dumb. It's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah.
And they say, fluoride's safe levels in water. It's not. If you look at countries, there's only 8 countries in the world that have not banned fluoride.
That have not banned it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ireland's one of them. There's fluoride in tap water in Ireland. America, there's other countries. A lot of countries have banned fluoride because it's a carcinogen. It's not good for you.
There's only 8 countries in the world. And we're one of them.
Yeah, don't quote me on that, but a lot of countries have banned fluoride.
Jesus.
And Ireland hasn't. So, yes.
We'd get cracking on that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly. And
so cut out the tap water. That's another one.
And what else we were talking about earlier, get to a healthy weight. You don't want to be obese because that's going to lower your testosterone. Avoid a sedentary lifestyle. So,
sedentary,
yeah. You want to move more. So increasing your step count, that can increase your testosterone levels. Hitting between 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. That's an easy win you can do every day.
Going for a walk, man, is like one of the healthiest practices you can have as well.
Just
the actual, just moving, just moving forward as well. That feeling of actually moving forward in life as well, man.
100%.
And just a big thing is just going for a walk the other time and no input. It depends how comfortable you are in your own head, but I just think that you get some great insights and great thoughts when there's nothing else external coming in.
You do, and that's something I need to practice myself because my brain's constantly in overdrive. I'm constantly thinking. I don't switch off. Like a few years ago, I was really good at meditating. I was really good at quieting my mind, but now I can't do it. And it's terrible because it puts you into a chronic state of stress. You're constantly thinking. You can't shut off.
When do we ever give ourselves enough space that there's no thoughts at all, man?
We don't.
That's the beautiful thing about meditation, man. I always see it as like, this serenity. It's like this pool or lake of water, and you know your thoughts come down and they ripple the water and they ripple the water. You just want to get to a place where it's just completely still, completely calm, man. Because you get great insights, like I said before, man. And yeah, a lot can come from that. Definitely so. I'm a big believer in that. And peace of mind is a massive thing as well.
Definitely.
Just having peace from your mind. Peace from your mind. But yeah, sorry, any more do's in terms of testosterone?
Yeah, so let's cover the do's.
Yeah.
So eating cholesterol-rich foods.
Yes, that's a big one.
It is a big one. It is a very big one.
How many years have we been told, you know, don't eat, like, heart disease?
Yeah, that's been
debunked now, hasn't it?
Oh, it's completely debunked.
Debunked, yeah.
We're not going to go down the rabbit hole, but straight away, just to debunk that, there was a study done in 2022.
Yeah.
And they concluded the paper with saying cholesterol is not linked to heart disease and it's found in the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, which it is.
Yeah.
If you look at what is the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, eggs, liver, red meat, they have the best nutrient profiles.
Big juicy steak.
Exactly. Oh, I love a good steak.
Yeah, so do I, man.
And they're also the highest in cholesterol. Cholesterol is essential. It has so many functions in the body. It makes up cell membranes. It's needed for all your steroidal sex hormones. So people don't realize that testosterone, the precursor, which basically means what you need to make up testosterone.
The co-founder.
Yeah, the co-founder is cholesterol. You need cholesterol because when your cholesterol is higher, not obviously out of range, but when you have higher cholesterol, it's going to increase your testosterone levels.
Yeah, I've heard that before, man. Yeah.
And there's other few precursors like zinc, boron. They're all essential for making up testosterone. So yeah, eating cholesterol-rich foods like eggs, make sure you get pasture-raised eggs. The quality of food matters just as much of what kind of food you're eating.
It's a minefield.
Exactly. It's such a rabbit hole because,
it is.
You look at these things like steak. Steak's great for you, but it's about the quality of the animal because you are what you eat, but you're also what the animal eats.
Exactly.
And if the animal is eating pure and utter shit, it's not going to be good for you.
It's going to come out in yourself, isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's like the health of the animal as well, and how did it feel about itself? Was it locked in a big cage and it couldn't move, or was it free range? Was it out, you know, going about the grass, picking away at insects, getting sunlight on itself?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It all adds up.
So let's not go on too much of a tangent because I know I'm going to say something quickly, but why I prefer red meat over chicken is because red meat, cows, they're polygastric, meaning they have 4 stomachs. So if you feed cows poor quality feed, it has 4 stomachs to digest that poor quality feed. So in the end, not a lot of toxins are made up in the meat. Whereas chickens, they're polygastric. They have 1 stomach. So if you feed chicken like bad quality feed, it's going to make up the chicken's
bad
meat.
quality meat.
Exactly. So, and chickens are fed a lot more poor quality feed than cows. So straight away, eating more red meat and eating less chicken would be a great win.
Well, you mentioned zinc and boron. That's
exactly
two brilliant reasons.
And they're the highest in red meat. And oysters are a great one.
Oysters are number 1 for zinc, aren't they?
They are. They are. And liver's great for zinc as well.
Yeah.
And strength training 3 to 4 times per week, especially lower body exercises like squats, hip thrusts, because your legs are the biggest muscle in the body.
Yeah.
They are going to produce more testosterone. Like they've done studies, and doing like compound movements such as squats has a better effect on testosterone versus doing isolation movements like bicep curls and stuff. So if you want to get the most out of your training, making sure you're doing compound movements, leg press, squats, things like that. And if we touch a bit on the nutrition side, what kind of foods are going to optimize and increase your testosterone levels? So pomegranates, pomegranate juice, onions, red meat, as we were saying, egg yolks, oysters, raw honey. Olive oil can be good, raw honey, garlic, ginger. All those things will increase testosterone in different mechanisms. So is that like reducing oxidative stress, or it will just directly give you the nutrients you need to make up testosterone
and stay healthy.
Exactly. It's not just about increasing testosterone, it's about just increasing your health, and that's a byproduct of increasing
your
health.
Health's in check, man. You become more vitalized, testosterone increases, you feel like more of a man.
Definitely.
Get the health in check. Listen, just to round this up, man, I've absolutely loved this conversation. Is there anything you'd like to touch on before we finish up? Is there anything that sticks out that we haven't mentioned so far? Because we've covered a lot.
Yeah, there's so many rabbit holes we could go down. So unless you want to bring anything up, we can touch on quickly.
I think we've covered it nicely, man. I'm very happy the way things have gone. We'll definitely have to do this again, maybe at some stage. I'd love to. Yeah, 100%. If anyone is looking to find out more about what you do, where do they go?
The easiest place would be go straight to my Instagram. So that's just HealthOptimisation_project.
Yeah.
And if you've any questions on anything we covered, want more details, just reach out, send me a question. I love helping people. I love answering questions.
There you go.
We could go down so many rabbit holes. We could do an entire hour just on EMFs, but we don't have the time.
We'll come back to it. Like I said before,
100%.
we'll come back to it. Connor, thank you so much for coming in, man. You are a breath of fresh air. You're a wealth of knowledge, and it's absolutely incredible that you're only 20, bro. And you're so far down this rabbit hole, because it took me a couple more years than you, but Jesus Christ, man, you're well versed in everything. So thank you so much for coming in.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All the best, man. Take care.
You too.